Now, once again, Raymond Arroyo.
Welcome back to the World Over Live. News of the murder of American aid worker Kayla Mueller at the hands of ISIS has renewed calls for greater U.S. military commitment in the region. ISIS subjugation of Christians and religious minorities in Iraq continues as well. Now, my next guests recently returned from a fact-finding mission in Iraq. What they discovered is disturbing, but it has led them to found a new human rights group, the 21st Century Wilberforce Initiative. Joining me on set is former Virginia Congressman Frank Wolf and the president of the Wilberforce Initiative, RANDEL EVERETT. Thank you both for being here. Congressman Wolf, I want to start with you. 10 years ago, there were more than 1 million Christians just in Iraq. Now we're under 300,000, and that's probably too high a number. You spoke to many of these people who are on the run from the place where they had sought safe harbor when ISIS swept in. What are they telling you? What did you see?
Well, the stories are horrendous. ISIS has moved them out. It is genocide. What is taking place to the Christian community and the Yazidis is genocide, and they never complain. The one thing they did ask, where is the West? Does the West care? They've been very concerned. Pope Francis has spoken out, a handful of others have, but very few prominent religious leaders in the West have spoken out. So they kind of wondered, does the West really care? More biblical activity took place in Iraq than any other country of the world other than Israel. Daniel's buried there. Ezekiel's buried there. Jonah's tomb was just blown up. So they're wondering, have they been abandoned? But it is genocide what is taking place to the Christians and the Yazidis.
Randel, what did you see? I know you all visited with Dominican Order of Nuns. You visited several churches. One in Mosul, an 800-year-old church, is being used essentially as a torture chamber, you reported.
We interviewed probably more than 75 of the ones who had been displaced. They were in these IDP placement centers throughout Erbil and all the way over to Dahuk. We interviewed Christians and also the Yazidis. The Dominican sisters were some of our heroes there. They were unbelievable. The very second day that they were in exile, and they'd just been run from their places, it took them 10 hours to go what would have been a 40-minute trip. It was in August, 120 degrees in the daytime. So they get to Erbil, and they're just living on the street, just thousands, probably 40,000 just from Mosul itself. And obviously some of them were infants, some of them were elderly. And some of the doctors and the pharmacists and the nurses and all who themselves were displaced began to minister to and treat the people who were ill on the sidewalk. And we were there 5 months into this, and one of the churches had set up a clinic, and they had these containers, and 4 volunteer doctors were working, the pharmacists were working, but this one lady, Sister Diana, was kind of orchestrating it all, and just caring for their own people, treating them with as much dignity and respect and compassion as they possibly could under those circumstances.
Frank, Congressman Wolf, you encountered a couple. The wife had been diagnosed with cancer.
Right.
And they told you their story. What happened?
They were in a small village. ISIS came in, took over the village. They then drove to Mosul for treatment for his wife. His wife had breast cancer. At the hospital, ISIS said unless they convert, and unless the wife converts, they would not give her treatment. The wife refused to convert, the husband refused, and of course the wife died. He has one son who lives in San Diego. He has a daughter living outside in Turkey, and he has 2 young kids. But he would not convert. He would not deny Jesus. He would not convert. That's the type of people. These people are good people. They're good people, and they're waiting for the West to speak out and do something, and they have not seen that.
You say in this report that we are looking at a genocide of this Christian community unless the West steps in and ISIS is utterly defeated. What should be done? What do you recommend?
Well, there's so many things that can be done. One, we have to do whatever it takes to defeat ISIS, because ISIS is coming here. ISIS is coming to Europe. There are 140 Americans that have left this country and gone to fight with ISIS. There are 3,000 to 4,000 people from Europe that have gone there. ISIS has the most sophisticated military. They have all the equipment that Americans had that they gave to the Iraqi military. The best tanks, the best guns, the best Humvees. So unless you do whatever it takes to defeat ISIS, ISIS is now spreading into Afghanistan. ISIS is connected to what's taking place in Yemen. ISIS is connected to the Boko Haram, which is capture all those young Christian girls. So whatever it takes ought to be done to defeat ISIS. Otherwise, they're coming here.
I want to play this for you. This is President Obama today urging Congress to authorize the use of force against ISIS. Listen.
The resolution we've submitted today does not call for the deployment of U.S. ground combat forces to Iraq or Syria. That's not in our national security interest, and it's not necessary for us to defeat ISIL. This resolution repeals the 2002 authorization of force for the invasion of Iraq and limits this new authorization to 3 years. I do not believe America's interests are served by endless war.
I do not believe America's interest is served by endless war. How does this authorization work? What is he talking about? If no troops are on the ground and you're limiting it to 3 years,
you can't win. It basically, you would need a lawyer to comply with what they're sending up. Before the action will be taken, you have to check with the lawyer. Whatever it takes to defeat ISIS should be done. They beheaded Americans. We saw what they did to the Jordanian pilot. We saw what they did to the young lady from Arizona. They were involved in many other activities. They need to be defeated. And if they are not defeated, the genocide will continue. There'll be no Christians. There'll be no Yazidis. And they're coming to the West. Yeah. They're coming to the West.
Tell me about this Nineveh Protection Unit. You met with them. Who are these people? This is really a little Christian remnant remaining in the Nineveh plain.
They're basically Christian men who are coming together. Some are old, some are young, some are out of shape, but they care deeply. They basically want to protect their own villages. They want the Kurdish government to give them the Nineveh Plains Christian protectorate, whereby Christians and Yazidis and Turkmen can come and live. So that basically is a National Guard unit. And Senator Levin had language in the defense bill that allows that. And they're not getting aid. We're not giving aid to the Peshmerga that are fighting ISIS.
You met with them. Why not? Why aren't we giving them aid?
Well, I guess that's a question that the president would have to answer. I don't understand. ISIS has sophisticated weapons. Peshmerga does not. They're looking for weapons. They're looking for training so they can stop what is going on. I don't know why we're not giving it to them.
The Daily Beast is reporting that in the case of Kayla Mueller, as well as James Foley, Stephen Sutloff, they were all being held. And apparently, British intelligence identified the location. It took the United States a full month to send and authorize a rescue mission. They are claiming, this report at least, and others, that the administration was too slow to act and therefore we lost these Americans. Your thoughts?
I'd have to see the report. I would hope that's not true because
it would be awful if it were.
It would be awful.
Terrible. Let's talk about who's financing ISIS. You were on the ground. You talked to many people. What are they telling you?
Well, they were saying, and Randall might want to chime in here, but they were saying that money is coming from Saudi Arabia, from elements in Saudi Arabia, also from Qatar, and the Turkey government is allowing people, they fly to Istanbul, they go south into Syria, and they fight. So the money is coming from outside.
And 300,000 barrels of oil are being smuggled out every day, you know, over into Iran. You know, you see Iran's presence throughout Iraq as well.
What's the answer? What should people in the West, the United States and Europe do who are watching tonight?
Well, I think one thing, ISIS has to be stopped. I mean, obviously, are these people, it is genocide against the people. And then they also we need to find a way to send them back to their home area, the region. Without exception, every one of them said, we want to go home. We want to go back to the Nineveh Plains area. But then they said if they can't go home to a safe environment, then they need to leave. And if they leave, then there'll be no Christians there. One priest told us that he said the light of Christianity will be extinguished in Iraq after centuries of their presence there. We met some of the most radiant Christians, like Sister Diana. We interviewed some Yazidis there, and two 18-year-old girls had been held captive by ISIS for 100 days. And then they escaped. One night, 5 girls escaped, and they were 2 of those. And we heard their stories, just horrific stories. And so we've got to do something about it.
I hear from friends of mine in the military who've come back the absolutely grisly tales of what ISIS is doing to these Christian populations, particularly women and children. I mean horrific things that I can't even recount here. Did you pick that up as well?
We did more with the Yazidis. The Yazidi, I think, it's what they've done to the women is very, very bad. Yes, all of them are suffering. There are a degree, I think, in some respects, maybe the Yazidis more, but the Christians have suffered. What can we do? Do what Pope Francis did, speak out. All religious leaders in the West ought to speak out. They ought to be condemning what's taking place. They ought to be advocating. Secondly, we can pray. God can do amazing things. We should pray. This is a spiritual battle too. And lastly, we should aid Sister Diana and the others with regard to the refugees, with regard to medicine and food and all. And lastly, we should have Nineveh planes that allow them to protect themselves so we can keep Christianity in the cradle where it all began.
Randel, tell me about the 21st Century Wilberforce Initiative. What is it? It's to raise awareness, but to do much more.
We want to fight for religious freedom for people all over the world, and we also want to help those religious minorities, particularly Christians, who are being persecuted now. And so that's why we felt like the tip of the spear is in Iraq, and we wanted to go there, see for ourselves what the situation is, and come back and awaken the church in America so that we might be involved in humanitarian assistance, but also some ongoing protection and provisions for them.
Congressman Wolf, when you retired from Congress, you really have made this your life's work. Why?
Well, my faith, I said I wanted to take the teachings of Jesus and put them into practice and speak out for those who don't have a voice.
Well, you're really continuing your work. You did this. This was really your work on the Hill as well. I mean, you established the International Religious Freedom Commission. I mean, so many legislative efforts to raise awareness about religious freedom, not only here but abroad. So I see this as continuing the trajectory started here.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for being here.
For
more on the work of Congressman Wolf and Randel, as well as the 21st Century Wilberforce Initiative, you can find them at 21wilberforce.org.